I've spent much of my life feeling the sharp, relentless sting of my sister's bullying. Growing up, she was a golden child in our family, basking in the glow of my mother's unwavering favoritism. It wasn't just that my sister got more attention. She was practically worshipped. My mother would beam at her every achievement, no matter how small, while I lingered in the background, unnoticed and undervalued. If I dared to speak up or shine in my own way, my sister would find a way to tear me down. Sometimes with a cruel word, sometimes with a sly smirk that said I'd never measure up. That dynamic carved a deep rift between us, a rivalry that festered over the years and left me feeling utterly alone. Not long ago, I stumbled onto something that turned my lingering resentment into outright fear. I'd always suspected my sister envied anything good in my life, but this was different, darker. I overheard fragments of a hushed conversation between her and my mother, their voices low and conspiratorial. At first, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but the pieces came together like a nightmare snapping into focus. They were plotting something sinister against me, something that involved my fiancé, Alec. My sister, with my mother's quiet approval, intended to drug him, not just to hurt me, but to manipulate him into a situation where she could get pregnant. Her goal? To trap him, claim a piece of his life, and secure the kind of luxury she'd always craved. The thought of her scheming to invade my relationship, to twist it into something grotesque for her own gain, sent chills racing down my spine. It was a stark, horrifying reminder of how far she'd go to keep me beneath her. Against that backdrop of betrayal, my father was my lifeline. He wasn't like my mother. He saw me, really saw me, and never played favorites. When I'd come to him, bruised by my sister's taunts or my mother's indifference, he'd listen patiently. His steady presence a balm to my wounds. He'd tell me I was enough, that I didn't need to compete for worth, and his belief in me gave me the courage to push back against the unfairness I faced at home. But then he passed away, and the loss hit me like a tidal wave. Without him, the house felt colder, emptier, and the void he left behind swallowed up the strength I'd relied on. I started retreating into myself, unsure how to navigate a world where my biggest ally was gone. Then came Alec. Meeting him felt like stepping into sunlight after years in the dark. He was kind, respectful, everything I'd longed for but never thought I deserved. We fell in love, and when he proposed, I could hardly believe it. For the first time, I let myself imagine a future filled with hope, a life where I wasn't defined by my family's shadows. We started planning our wedding, and I threw myself into the details, choosing flowers, sketching out invitations, because it was a chance to build something beautiful. But my sister couldn't stand it. Every time I mentioned Alec or the wedding, her face would twist with barely concealed contempt. She'd make snide remarks about how I didn't deserve him, or how he'd see through me eventually. Her jealousy was a living thing, coiled and venomous, and it widened the already gaping chasm between us. Desperate to salvage some semblance of family, I decided to invite my mother and sister into the wedding planning. I thought, naively, maybe that it could be a bridge, a way to mend what was broken. I pictured us laughing over fabric swatches or debating cake flavors, finding common ground in the excitement of the day. But it was a disaster from the start. The air between us crackled with tension, every conversation laced with unspoken resentment. My sister would undermine every choice I made, and my mother would nod along, her silence as damning as agreement. I tried to keep up a cheerful front, but inside, I was suffocating. One day, during a visit to my mother's house, I caught the tail end of a whispered exchange that shattered any illusions I had left. I'd stepped into the kitchen for a glass of water when I heard their voices drifting from the living room, low, urgent, plotting. My name came up, then Alex, and then words I couldn't unhear. If we time it right, and she'll never suspect. My blood ran cold as I pieced it together. They were refining their plan, the one I'd suspected but prayed wasn't real. They wanted to sabotage my happiness, to use Alec as a pawn in their twisted game. I slipped out of the room before they noticed me, my hands trembling as I gripped the counter. The betrayal sank into me like a blade, sharp and deep, leaving me dizzy with disbelief and grief. After that, I couldn't shake the storm of emotions swirling inside me. I felt betrayed, yes, but also foolish for hoping they'd change. My own mother and sister, people who were supposed to love me, had become my enemies, and that truth was almost too much to bear. I wanted to tell Alec everything, to pour out my pain to my friends, but I hesitated. What if they didn't get it? What if they thought I was overreacting, or couldn't grasp how tangled and toxic my family had always been? The fear of being misunderstood kept me silent, bottling up the hurt until it threatened to choke me. Eventually, a few close friends noticed I wasn't myself and pressed me to open up. When I finally did, their advice was unanimous. I needed to protect myself. They urged me to tell Alec the truth about my family's behavior, to let him stand with me against their schemes. They also suggested something harder, cutting ties with my mother and sister entirely. They pointed out how their poison had seeped into every corner of my life, how I'd never be free unless I walked away. It made sense, and part of me knew they were right, but the idea terrified me. Severing those bonds meant letting go of the dream I clung to for so long, a family that accepted me, loved me, without conditions or cruelty. Yet staying meant risking more pain, more betrayal, and maybe losing Alec, too. Now, I'm standing at a crossroads, caught between the life I've known and the one I want to build. The choices ahead loom large and intimidating, like shadows stretching across an uncharted path. But one thing has become painfully clear. I can't keep living in their darkness. I have to choose myself, my happiness, my peace, even if it means facing the unknown alone. It won't be easy, and the ache of what I'm leaving behind might never fully fade. But for the first time, I feel a flicker of resolve, a quiet strength that tells me I'm ready to fight for the life I deserve.